Hello and welcome to the Moonbase 2 coverage of Auto Assembly 2009, and I'm very excited to say that we've got our first guest in here. It is artist and comic book writer extraordinaire, Mr. Nick Roche.
Alright.
Hello. Welcome to the show. Right, obviously we've got a lot to cover and obviously we don't want to take up too much of your time, so we're just going to get straight in there. Do you want, just for the people who, might not know what it is you've done and sort of how you came to do what you're doing at the moment?
Hello. Yes, I am Nick, and I draw comics for IDW, Transformers, and I've done things like the Shockwave Spotlight, the Hot Rod Spotlight, and I've written and drawn the Cup Spotlight. Recently just finished the Maximum Dinobots miniseries, and coming up in a couple of months, I think in September, in All Hail Megatron issue 15, I've got another follow-up story to Cup, because that's obviously all I can write or draw, and that's kind of what people know me for so far, I think. And I've also done a bit of Ninja Turtles for Titan and a little bit of Doctor Who, and that's
fantastic.
Yeah.
So obviously before we get on to the comic books, let's just talk about Transformers in general.
Can we?
Yes,
Alright,
I think so. Before obviously you became famous for drawing them, what was your previous experience with Transformers?
Just like pissing my money up the wall on Transformers since I was 4. I've just been a big obsessive since they came out, and my first Transformer was Hot Rod, and that's kind of quite late into the run in some ways, but I've been a fan since the ads came on the TV, and I saw like Jazz with the front of a car hanging off his chest. I was like, what? To the point where I was convinced that Transformers, when you buy them in the shops, would be one robot and one car, and you had to use your imagination to add the transformation in between. So when I finally got to hold a Transformer and transform it, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe they can really do this.
So what you're actually telling me is that you had the plan for Action Masters in your head years before.
I thought that when Action Masters came out, I was like, oh, this is a step backwards, forwards, it's a step, I don't know. So that was kind of it. I was properly into them all grown up, and I never gave up. And it was mainly the Marvel UK stuff, I have to say, that kind of kept me interested in, obviously the Marvel US stuff, which was reprinted, but I'm very much that kind of UK continuity fanboy. Never really saw much of the cartoon series because we relied on like UK terrestrial schedules back in Ireland, so it wasn't on very often anyway. So the comics is kind of what did it for me, and just all through my teenage years, just kept drawing my own Transformers, comics in exercise books and things like that. And I got up to issue 106 of my own series, like little 20 sort of page sort of things of my own continuity, which kind of resembled what was going on in Marvel UK, depending on the week that was happening. So, except I introduced the motivators first, so there you go. Not at all. So yeah, so that was kind of me.
So sort of lifelong fan, and obviously big into the Marvel UK comics.
Yeah.
And that's what convinced you to pick up the pencil in the first place and start?
Yeah, but very much so, and like especially even like, well, no, I tell a lie. I was kind of writing my own Transformer stories when I was like sort of 5, and I hadn't like even seen a comic really at this stage, and so I'd kind of like write stories like prose at the bottom of the page and picture at the top of the page, and then I sort of saw the Transformers comic, and I was like, but the pictures are telling the stories and the words are coming out of the mouths and stuff. So that's when I kind of started like doing my own comics, kind of when I was about sort of 5 or 6, I guess. So I was kind of already doing my own Transformer stories based on toys and what I was seeing on like Rolling That on TVAM, and then when Marvel UK showed up, my mind blew apart, because the first issue I picked up was the first part of Target 2006, and so it's a really good part to sort of jump on. It just grabs you and it just doesn't stop after that. So I loved it grabbing me. I loved it. And
obviously you're developing your style throughout. Now, is it true that when you sent some artwork off to IDW, was that your first attempt at sort of...
No, I tried getting into Dreamwave a couple of times, but they had very much like a house style that was going on, and kind of anyone who's seen my stuff knows it's kind of not very much, it's not that kind of like anime sort of style. It's kind of, it's cartoony, but it's its own sort of cartooniness, and it's kind of, it's very kind of stylized, because I think I'm more of a kind of a comic fan than an anime fan, like a Western comic fan. So that's kind of how my Transformers were kind of designed, and so Dreamwave never even sort of replied to my emails or whatever. And I'm kind of, obviously looking back, I'm glad that I didn't do any work for Dreamwave, just because, I mean, at the time I would have worked for free, but it turns out so everyone else in Dreamwave was doing that anyway, so it was kind of nice to not have the option. So
and obviously, working for free, but at least go getting rid of that mentality that I'm not getting paid, as opposed to where's the check?
I'd love to.
And so obviously IDW gets the license. And now, is it true that you had a 20-minute turnaround in acceptance for your work?
Pretty much, yeah. And I mean, it wasn't so much that like Chris Ryall said, like, you're getting this series, you know, like it was kind of, he really liked the stuff, and he said he was such a positive guy and so keen to use me, and he sort of said he wants me in on the first issue, and that was having the issue Infiltration 0, and they had me do the Chris Charger, sort of Chris Ryall vanity character or whatever they had, and so that was kind of cool, and all the time he was good enough to stay in touch with me and sort of say, if there's something coming, we'll find something for you, and then it was the spotlights, I guess, and I had the cover for Infiltration variant cover with Starscream flying over the city, whatever. But that was kind of it. So I kind of spent the whole summer sort of just like honing my sort of kind of skills, and I did like another sort of proposal or sample pages. I did like a Time Wars sort of redraw. I think it's just like showing up online someplace. It might be on DeviantArt somewhere. And it was just like the kind of bit where it's raining in Ottawa City and Cup shows up, and I kind of drew that. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of what happened. Yeah.
And then obviously the call comes through, Spotlight Shockwave, getting to work with Simon Furman, who, you know...
That's the noise I make every time I hear Simon Furman's name, yeah. It's a good, exciting... Yeah, I love him.
Simon Furman?
Yeah, have you heard about him?
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah, he's alright.
Yeah. So obviously, you know, you're reading Target 2006, and then then it's like
that's what I genuinely, and that's what I think of even to this day, where we've gotten past that sort of oh my god, it's Simon Furman, and we're like cool with each other now, and we like talk, but I'm still in my head. I'm going, oh my god. There's one night about 2 years ago in a pub in Dublin, and Simon was telling me the ideas he was having for like Revelation and Spotlight RC and things like that, and it was like about 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock. And I was like, oh my god, Simon Furman is telling me bedtime stories. It's so amazing. So yeah, I hope he never sees this, because you know we're through if he sees this. You know what I mean? But yeah, very very impressed. He's like my favorite Transformers writer. You know, he's kind of it for me. And the guy who wrote, like I said, wrote Target 2006 and wrote Time Wars, and now I'm working with him on my first comic. And like working with like Josh Burcham, the colorist, and like he's my first colorist I got to work with and stuff. It was just absolute dream star.
Yeah, and we've had Josh on as well. And
oh really?
Yeah, and Josh is outstanding with what he can do with those colors. It's you don't really sort of notice how a comic sort of comes together until you sort of examine each individual thing. But obviously, Spotlight Shockwave, so you're getting to play with Shockwave and you're getting to play with Furman's Dinobots. And Furman's Shockwave, really, to be honest.
Furman's purple one-eyed monster,
it's and Spotlight Shockwave really sort of set the surprise for me. Just, you know, there's obviously that famous scene where he sort of turns the emotions back on, and it's just like, well, that's pretty awesome. Now, obviously you did that, and you did Spotlight Hot Rod.
Yeah.
Did you feel that you had to change your style at all for any of the work that you did, or was it just Nick Roche like all the way through?
I kind of find that I do change my style, but not that I have to change my style. But it kind of just depends on the story. And sometimes I feel bad about it. Some people complimenting on me saying, "Oh, it's really good that you can sort of change your style." And I kind of just wish I just had the one style that I could do really well and stick to it. But no, I mean, and the thing with Hot Rod, I mean, he's kind of such a kind of a bouncy, energetic character anyway, so I kind of over-cartooned it. A lot of people were kind of surprised when they saw me do Hot Rod because I was doing facial expressions, because obviously when you do Shockwave in the Dinobots, Grimlock's not got a mouth and neither does Shockwave, do you know what I mean? So I think they're kind of surprised to sort of see how kind of the wild takes that I was doing with it. But no, I do like sort of changing the style a little bit. The thing that's coming up at the moment in All Hail Megatron 15, the Cup story, is actually told from Prell's point of view. And I've kind of toned down the cartooniness a little bit in it, just because it's kind of like how Prell sort of sees things. And obviously, you know, he's quite by the book, sort of rigid sort of guy. So I don't know if it really translates, but I mean, there's a conscious effort from time to time to sort of just match the style of the story. You know?
So where did you make the transition? I mean, obviously you said you've been writing since you were 5 years old and things like that. Where did you make the transition from being an artist at IDW to wanting to do... And it seems like Cup seems to be a recurring theme for you as well. You keep mentioning him.
Well, I mean, it's the only thing I've written at this point. I mean, you know, All Hail Megatron 15 isn't out yet. For all we know, Cup got a really good reaction. But it could be a fluke as well. Do you know what I mean? So I mean, we don't know how well it's going to go. So
is there an attraction to just that specific character, or was it I have this story of you know, an Autobot who's trapped and alone and
I Am Legend with Transformers, essentially.
Yeah, essentially. And then you thought, well, who would work? Oh, Cup.
Yeah, that was more the way it was. That's absolutely blown my cover. Thanks very much. Yeah, that's how it was done. I wasn't even. I do like my favorite kind of iteration of Transformers is probably the animated movie. I just love those characters and kind of I love the colourfulness and the sort of the joyfulness, even though it's got that Saving Private Ryan battle in it, you know. But I just love it. You know, I love like Hot Rod Springer and Cup. So yeah, when it coming up with the Cup story, I just knew that there was an opening. Kind of Ryle had mentioned that they were maybe looking for other people to do spotlights, and I sort of said, "Can I have a go or whatever?" And I'd never had any interest in writing the Transformers comic, just because kind of with any sort of mainstream comics, the continuity is always so dense, you know. I'd written. What I kind of had been writing for the last couple of years was like pantomimes, where I'm from in Wexford, and I've written like 8 pantomimes over like sort of 8 years. And so that was kind of how I kept my hand in writing, and I was happy with that, just writing sort of silly, you know, fairy pantomimes. So yeah, with the Cup thing, I mean, Transformers is quite dense. I never thought I'd be able to sort of dive into Simon's continuity. Like same, it'd be almost like trying to write an X-Men story or a Batman story. There's so much that's kind of gone before, and it's rushing so fast. So the way I tried to get around it is to try writing a story that would be kind of, it could fit or it couldn't fit. You know, I mean, it didn't have rely too much on anything that's done before. It could almost be told in any sort of generation or any sort of way. And I kind of came up with the idea of you know, I Am Legend with Transformers, and then it kind of struck me the Cup was kind of the guy for the job, and that's kind of how it worked from there. And you know, just because that's with All Hail Megatron Coda, which is kind of the subtitle of what they're doing at the moment, the kind of the final 4 issues of All Hail Megatron, and they're trying to bridge gaps and things like that because they wanted to sort of explain why Cup is alive. I guess that's why they asked me to do Cup. And now, when I'm doing the Wreckers, Cup is hanging out with Springer and Perceptor these days, so that's why he's in that. So it's kind of, it's not a choice to sort of stay with Cup, but you know, it's obviously, I'm obviously the man for that job, I guess.
Just obviously how it's worked out and things like that. And I mean, this is just a random aside. No love for Outback.
No problem with Outback. No offense, no offense, bro. It was, yeah, it was just I just wanted to kind of be a name character rather than a generic bot sort of 12, you know, and I guess Outback, and because I guess like Outback might be, I don't know why I picked Outback. It just did. I guess.
I was gonna because I think if you insert generic, you know, GoBot, it doesn't have
the same impact.
The same impact.
And you know they were kind of like marked for death the minute they step on the page and stuff, you know. So and you know they're not coming back, I guess too. So it was kind of nice.
And obviously, with the end of it, I really like the relationship you sort of developed up with Springer. This sort of father-son almost, you know, mentality thing that he won't let it go and he'll do whatever he can. And then for me, the nice big surprise is Trailbreaker just popping up at the end.
Well, that was going to be Blur originally.
Right.
And the reason why I decided it was going to be Blur is because it was almost like 2 animated movie. Even though I love it, kind of Simon's advice, like he didn't give me advice, so I read it in the interview, is that if it's been done before, don't do it again. So don't like try and hark back to kind of the G1 cartoons or even the UK comics, you know, no matter how cool they were, that's them. This is a time for new relationships with characters. So the idea was that Blair was going to sort of use the speed to sort of like that he would be sort of affected by radiation, you know, or whatever. Or he'd be able to sort of I can't even remember the original idea, but it was that he was able to sort of like grab Cup and take him away because he had speed. They were waiting for him to show up. It doesn't make sense, you know. Waiting for the fastest Autobot in the universe to show up so they could spring the last sort of trap on Cup. But yeah, so Trailbreaker, just checked out the tech specs, and Trailbreaker's like perfect, you know, guy for the job, and it's nice to use a character that just doesn't get any sort of like love at all.
So, yeah, exactly. And obviously the power just sort of fits perfectly with
it worked. It worked for what I needed to do, and he. The other thing as well is just reading the tech specs. I kind of haven't gotten a feel for how like lighthearted he is. Apparently he's like a nice, friendly, affable guy, and I hadn't like realised that before. Because how would you realise that from like his no appearances in the comic and you know his very few appearances in the cartoon really? So yeah, so it's kind of nice to have him just sort of show up and kind of be chirpy and sort of like ask for the cup of energy juice or whatever it was he has. So, yeah.
And then obviously, you know, fast forwarding, you did Maximum Dinobots. Now, Maximum Dinobots, it came at a really sort of weird time, didn't it? For Simon had done Revelation, which had been sort of cut back from 6 to 4 issues, and obviously he still had a lot more to cover. And obviously you got that, but while it was in sort of E.J. Sue's continuity of comics, he obviously wasn't doing them. When you got offered, you know, to do the monthly series and things like that, what was your initial impression on doing?
Just excited and chuffed and nervous and apprehensive and all those sort of things. And it's weird because I didn't really like the Dinobots or Shockwave until Spotlight Shockwave, and I had to draw them. And so by that stage, I kind of felt, because I'd been the first person introduced the Dinobots to the IDW universe and like Shockwave, I kind of felt like they're kind of mine a little bit, and I kind of felt like if anyone's going to draw this Maximum Dinobot series, it kind of better be me, because I knew it was kind of coming down the pipe or whatever. And kind of Denton sort of like played with me, Denton Tipton, the editor of IDW Transformers, kind of played with me a little bit, but he said all along he kind of wanted me to do it, so he was kind of teasing me that I wouldn't get to do it. So I was chuffed to get to do it, nervous, because I was supposed to do Doctor Who monthly before, but I'd fallen ill at the first issue, during the first issue, and I never got to sort of pick it up, because I was kind of sick out for a few months, so I was kind of nervous that that would happen again for some reason. It might be sort of like cursed to never do a monthly series. So, and as it happened, I did need that fill in with James Reyes or whatever.
Yes.
But I think that's just because I just went overboard on drawing Headmaster clones, But so it's easy for Simon Furman to write to 100 Headmaster clones show up, but
100 Headmaster clones come in.
The
Panel 2. A further 300 join.
Headmaster clone was designed by EJ Sue. Do you know what I mean? Not to me, and I love EJ. He's like the best thing that's happened to IDW. I think is discovering him and putting him in charge of the main kind of art. And his designs are great, but I don't know. I mean, obviously EJ Sue. If EJ knew he had to draw these guys 100 times, he wouldn't design them the way he designed them.
No,
so but it's cool.
And IDW has come under a little bit of criticism, as of late, because of the fact that, and obviously this is meant no disrespect or anything, but it seems like that they seem to have trouble keeping constant. I mean, what kind of lead times do you get in sort of these big projects? Are they?
It was decent enough on Dinobots, and I just managed to sort of swallow it up, unfortunately. It's kind of, I can't actually remember specifics. I know I got the script for it kind of summer last year sometime in 2008, and then the first issue was kind of due October and stuff, so I think there was something else going on. I think I was either doing something else on the side is what it was, and that's kind of, but it's kind of hard to sort of turn down work that you've already sort of promised, and also turn down Maximum Dinobots that's being offered to you. But I do agree with you. I mean, like, we can all sort of like make excuses and sort of say, oh, we had other stuff on and we're only human and stuff, but I know ideally you should have an artist doing an arc. I'm gutted that I didn't get to do every page of Maximum Dinobots. It's actually broke my heart, to be honest, but it's kind of a shame. I mean, the kind of one thing I will sort of say is that because James did like 20 pages out of the whole thing, and I kind of wish that he'd just been given issue 4 to do as opposed to half of issue 4 and half of issue 5, because that's quite jarring, Well, I would have given me time to sort of catch my breath and maybe sort of bring issue 5 home and as a big finale sort of way, So, but that's not really a complaint. It's just sort of how regret, I guess.
You would have preferred to have gone. And then obviously that's all done. Now, obviously, one of the other things with Maximum Dinobots is that it's concurrently running alongside All Hail Megatron.
Yeah.
Which, for want of a better term, had fans completely confused as to what was going on. Simon's finishing off his stuff. Shane McCarthy's starting his stuff and is about halfway through, I think, when Maximum Dinobots came out.
Yes, Dinobots came out in December, so it would have been 6 months into All Hail Megatron.
Now, obviously, Shane brought Cup back. And brought him back in a direction that, I mean, how much did you actually think of Cup as the character before he went? And, is the portrayal that Shane McCarthy envisioned, the cigar-smoking, boot camp instructor, when you saw that, what was your initial take on that?
Well, I think he was kind of in character, because obviously Cup was, or how I saw him as being in character, because Cup was obviously kind of vital to Autobot morale, I guess, it was, maybe his glory days are over, but he's done so much for the Autobots that he was important to save and rescue and preserve, and so the fact that he was able to sort of he was so charismatic in All Hail Megatron, and people were just falling in behind him. That's kind of pretty much kind of how you would imagine Cup, had he been well, that's how he would sort of be. I think it was kind of a nice lesson to me, kind of how comics work, because I was sort of, I knew Cup was coming back kind of a while before a lot of people, because I got to see the All Hail Megatron sort of picture or outline or whatever, and I was like, Cup's coming back in issue 4 or whatever it was, and I was like, oh man. And I think it wasn't so much kind of what Shane was doing, it was more sort of, I kind of thought I'd get to sort of decide when Cup came back, know? And it was a good way to learn, because I don't own Transformers, I don't own Cup, And it's the same with anyone who like takes over a writer in like X-Men or Batman as well. You know, I mean, you can kind of do or undo or sort of move something on quickly, or ignore what that writer has done. And I'm saying didn't do that. I'm saying that like he sort of sped up Cup's kind of rehabilitation, I guess. You know, and in my head I thought that was going to be a plot point about maybe sort of how his recuperation, I guess. You know. So, but that's kind of it. It was a nice sort of like wake up call saying, yeah, you don't own Cup anyway, Nick. You know, so.
And then obviously Shane's finished now.
Yeah.
He finished on issue 12, and now Coda's coming out, which we were told is sort of building up towards the next big thing.
It seems to be kind of the building blocks, the stepping stones. Yeah, yeah.
And then at San Diego Comic-Con, we got the announcement that not only is the next big thing coming, but it's so big that they're actually now rolling out a full monthly series.
Yeah.
With Mike Costa and Don Figueroa.
Yeah, yeah.
Which sort of Don back on Transformers and
that's what a lot of people have wanted. I guess,
and Mike Costa sort of unknown to Transformers fans.
But if you read his Cobra series for G.I. Joe, I don't know if you have. Or...
No,
I don't like G.I. Joe, and I don't get G.I. Joe. And being like, you know, from the UK, it's kind of hard to kind of get into G.I. Joe the same way as the Americans. Even though Action Force was out over here, and then being Irish is even like less important, you know. So it's really, but but Cobra is a really, really good series. And
I've heard nothing bad about it.
It's just a good comic, and I think it's going to get a lot of recognition as just being one of the comics of the year, I think, and that's amazing, you know, that a kind of a toy tie-in will kind of get that sort of reputation. But and I'm not saying it to toe with the company line, it's just a really good comic, and so I was reading that before I knew Mike was kind of going to be in on the ongoing, so I think it's in good hands, and I've read kind of some of the stuff he's got coming up, and you know, no complaints here, you know.
Yeah. So how did and then obviously on top of that we've got the Bumblebee miniseries that's coming out, and obviously we've got Wreckers.
What?
Wreckers? No? Bunch of guys.
Oh balls! I'm supposed to be writing and drawing that.
Yes. Do you need?
No, I'm okay for another few minutes, I guess. But
there's a laptop.
Can I get a sketch pad maybe as well?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get around to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a series coming out apparently.
Yeah. How did that come about then?
I don't know. How did that come about? Honestly, they asked me if I would like to write and draw. No, they asked me would I be interested in drawing a Wreckers miniseries, and I was like, yeah, okay, brilliant, I love the Wreckers. And then I asked them who's going to write it, and they said you are. So it was like that's kind of how it happened. So it was like just ultra flippin' jammy.
Yeah.
So lucky to be asked to do it. So that's kind of it. And we toyed around the lineup as well, because kind of the IDW editors don't have the same sort of like kind of love as maybe the kind of UK fans or the kind of European fans have for the Wreckers as we know, which is kind of like you know Impactor in the UK comics and that kind of gang. You know, and that's kind of what I do. So we kind of played it with the idea of Wreckers isn't ever changing like lineup or whatever, you know. So I mean, I think the preview art is out now of the cover, and it hasn't got like Roadbuster or Whirl or any of those guys in it. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to be acknowledged, and I haven't ignored it. You know what I mean? I think anyone who knows me and my connection to Transformers knows that I'm kind of big on continuity and kind of everything that's gone before. So you know, I'll look after it. You know.
Yeah, I was going to say because obviously the Wreckers were introduced in Stormbringer.
Stormbringer, yeah.
So we've already had.
Yeah, we've met them and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
but I mean, All Hail Megatron sort of gave a good reason for kind of to sort of scatter teams and kind of you know split them up, and you know like even the way like Roadbuster was in All Hail Megatron, but like none of the rest of the guys are, and you sort of see them being rescued in Spotlight Drift. And kind of the Wreckers, half of them ended up on, is it Turmoil's ship, I guess? Yeah. So you know, I'm not saying that they're dead, they're just not here. Yeah. You know, that's what I always say. Yeah.
And so does Wreckers have you worked with Mike as to what he's doing, and so Wreckers will tie directly into that?
It does, or rather, kind of doesn't contradict it, and you know, we did kind of a little bit of. You know, kind of just cattle trading, sort of seeing who do you want to use and who can I use, and you know, can I do this or can I kill this guy? And see who does. And Mike's been pretty cool with it. And because Wreckers happens kind of like in outer space, and the ongoing MW series is very much the Earth-based sort of kind of G1 for want of a better word. You know, they don't really kind of contradict one another. You know, so there's one character in Wreckers who kind of, you know, the usual trick of like he leaves in Wreckers and he shows up in the ongoing.
All right,
sort of
okay,
way,
yeah.
You know, so it's kind of. It's all pretty smooth that way, I think, yeah.
Fantastic, and obviously that's coming out in...
It's 2010 anyway. I'm going to loathe to say I'm pretty sure it's January.
Right.
But it could be February. I'd obviously hope it was February, to be honest, but I think it's going to be January. So yeah, or early, 2010. Hopefully, yeah.
And I don't suppose. Tell us something that you've never told anybody. Tell us somebody who will show up.
Right. Someone who will show up. It's I can spoil this in so many ways. A really obvious non-spoiler one is Twin Twist and Top Spinner in it.
Oh.
But they're not on the cover, you see. So I try to sort of allay people's fears and sort of say, yeah. Who will show up? Skyquake. There you go.
There's nods of pleasure and agreement from the people behind the camera.
I mean, and you know that's not going to mean a great deal. And maybe he's not that big a character. Maybe he is the main baddie.
Yeah.
He's obviously not the main baddie if I'm talking to you about him. But yeah, but he is in it though. Yeah, so,
fantastic. And obviously can't wait to read it. It's going to be.
I mean, I was sort of saying to you before we started. I wish I could sort of say more because it does bug me. When people pull the whole, oh, I wish I could tell you more. But you know, because I'm dying to sort of, because I'm in the middle of it at the moment. You know, writing it and stuff before I start drawing this week. And I'd love to sort of tell you where it's set and why the records have to go there and who they're there to sort of get rid of, but what their other mission actually is while they're there. You know, so.
And do you find it hard to write something where your main characters are basically the go-to hardcore badass to come up with an opponent for the records?
It's got to be a pretty big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of strange. It's probably not what I would have. Maybe if I had a choice, I wouldn't have sort of gone for it. But I think they're kind of easier to write than, say, the Dinobots are, because there seems to be a lot more angst within the Dinobots, or the way IDW has presented them anyway. Whereas with the Wreckers, they're kind of the hard as nails gang, but they're so good at their job and they're so easy amongst each other that there's so many wisecracks and kind of, they're all pretending they're not scared anyway, so that bit's kind of fun to draw, just how sort of like, we're the Wreckers, screw it, so I can tell you something, one of the original trio of human characters is going to be in the Wreckers from Simon's Infiltration series.
Alright, okay, so it's either going to be Jimmy or Verity.
Or Hunter.
Well, it can't really be Hunter.
It's comics. It's not Hunter. But I thought I'd try and string it out.
I was so good at the end of 12 because
I really liked Hunter. I really liked him. Yeah. So, but I guess that's a good sort of sign that that you're good at that when a character you like dies, and maybe his death obviously has an impact. Then I guess.
No, come on, retcon. We need Hunter back, and we need him as the head of Sunstreaker.
It's and how cool was that? I mean, Sunstreaker's a headmaster, and Hunter as his head.
Because I spoke to Simon about it, and I said, you're doing headmasters. You do realise Sunstreaker. Me telling this, you do realise Sunstreaker wasn't a headmaster. And he turned around and said, yeah, but who most of all wouldn't want to be a headmaster? Who wouldn't want an organic stuck inside of his brain?
Perfect.
Well, obviously, we'll very quickly wrap this up. I'll just ask you a few more very quick questions. Favourite Transformer?
Hot Rod.
Hot Rod.
I'm such a sad fangirl.
Our friend Phil is going to be probably running up the wall with that one. Worst? Or one that you have absolutely no interest in touching?
Flip. Oh, crikey. It's really hard. They've all got such potential, man. Worst. I can't answer that. I'll try to come back to it. I'll try and give you an answer.
How are you enjoying Auto Assembly 2009? I'm
really, really loving it. I kind of wish I'd come over here as a punter before because there's so much. I haven't seen much of it because I've been on that side of the desk or whatever. But it's really, really good. I'm really enjoying it. I'm working hard, but I'm having a really good time meeting people like you guys. No, it's good. It's good.
Oh, excellent. Well, Nick, thank you very much for joining us. And
I am trying to think of the worst Transformer.
Skylinks.
Skylynx!
Skylynx is awesome!
I could do something with Skylynx.
Skylynx is brilliant!
Longtooth, there you go.
I started going wheelie.
It's too obvious, it's already obvious that I like Hot Rod, I don't want to be so obvious a fanboy to go, no, I hate wheelies as well.
Oh, well, as I say, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck with the ongoing, the Wrecker series.
Yeah, I need it.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.